Just over 6 years ago, everybody collectively lost their minds when Kendall Jenner appeared on The Tonight Show with her Contax T2. And you guys know the rest of the story. Over the years following, the prices of the Contax T2 went through the roof, and it's well deserved, they're wonderful cameras. But also, the profile of film photography on the whole was increased as well. And today, we're going to talk about another celebrity, a professional athlete, that was recently caught shooting a film camera. Well, just a few weeks ago, I was watching the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics. And just like everybody else watching the opening ceremony, I was surprised and disgusted that nobody had told me that Devin Booker was a film photographer. I was watching on my MacBook, the MacBook I'm using now. I was watching on YouTube Live TV, paused it, and I fast forwarded it and rewinded it again and paused it, trying to figure out what sort of camera he was using. And at this point, I've been in the film photography space for quite some time, and it didn't immediately jump out to me what it was. And then one thing was immediately clear when I was looking at the video. It wasn't a teeny tiny thing like the Contax T2 that Kendall Jenner was using. It was kind of a big chunky boy. The camera that Devin Booker was using was actually a medium format point and shoot, and while it's a pretty large camera, it's pretty small in the world of medium format. It's the Fuji GA645ZI. And just a few words about this camera. The Fuji GA645ZI is a 645 medium format autofocus rangefinder camera with a zoom range of 55 to 90. And about that focal range, 55 to 90, kind of a strange lens setup, but pretty usable. 55 on the short end, kind of a standard lens in medium format world, and then 90 on the long end, you're getting more to a portrait focal length. It's also worth pointing out the aperture range of the camera. It's f4.5 to f6.9, and that's a variable aperture zoom for those keeping score at home. So that means when you're at the 55, the short focal length, it's going to be at that 4.5, but by the time you're extended all the way out to the 90, you're going to be at the 6.9. So the aperture changes, and it's worth pointing out, again, that isn't an extremely wide aperture. So when you're using a camera like that, you're obviously going to need a pretty fast film. Portrait 800, Cinestill 800T, that kind of thing. And I've never used one of these cameras, but all the reports online say that it's a pretty darn good lens, with the exception of it being just a fuzz slow, which we could have deduced by just looking at the numbers. So it's got some light gathering limitations. Many reviews online point out that the camera is built extremely well, and I guess that really shouldn't come as a surprise, you know, it being a Fuji camera. Most of their stuff's pretty darn good, and especially stuff from that era, it was built really well. And like I said, it is a medium format camera, so while it is a really large film camera, for a medium format camera, it's actually not that big at all. So it's actually a pretty smart choice by Devin Booker. The camera really isn't an obvious choice for another celebrity turned film photographer. The camera is pretty darn big, like we said, owing to its medium format negative size, and I don't think the camera is particularly handsome. I mean, it looks cool enough if you're into kind of nerdy film cameras, but it isn't particularly striking aesthetically. I mean, you take a look at the Contax T2 and its wonderful sleek lines. It's a beautiful camera. This isn't that. It's got odd angles and strange proportions. It's, you know, it's a Fuji camera. It's got that quirky Fuji design philosophy that was prevalent in many of their cameras at the time. The camera is a cool choice. It's a smart choice. It's a camera that many of us would like. So the next question came after finding out that Devin Booker was a film photographer. What do his images look like? Well, funny you should mention that because I did find a few. I had a hard time finding images from his Fuji camera. You know, maybe he's like us, maybe he's got gas all the time and he just bought it. But I did find some other images that he'd take with film cameras. It's also funny to point out that Mr. Booker, just like Miss Jenner, he has his own Contax T2, the really sexy gold one. And you can see from these images, most of them just look like snapshots, kind of the kind of images that you and I would take if we were surrounded by rappers and movie stars. Decided to take a look at his Instagram and see what else that I could find that was maybe film related. And surprisingly, he doesn't share all that much photography on his Instagram. So maybe in that way, he's a lot like me. He takes lots of images, but very few of them actually make it onto the internet. The Vivian Maier effect, we'll call it. It was neat though. I also saw that he walks around with kind of a digital video camera you know, creating little retro clips from time to time. These were on his Instagram as well. Kind of interesting.
Americans right here. We got one of them, the photographer. Yeah. Yeah.
And that brings up the question many folks asked when it was discovered that Kendall Jenner was shooting film. Why would a celebrity want to shoot film to begin with? You know, we take these images, they've got a wonderfully nostalgic aesthetic, the film grain, all those things. We all know that, we all love it. Celebrities are not any more immune from those nostalgic appeals than we are. And Kendall Jenner stated this in her interview on The Tonight Show. I think it's more authentic to capture a moment on film. I don't know about all that necessarily, but what I do know is that when I get a set of negatives back from the lab, they are honest, right? You get the negatives back, it's the exact moment that you saw. There's no Photoshop, there's no manipulation. What was on the negative was what your camera saw on that day. There's an honesty to it, a truthfulness to it, and I imagine that that appeals to celebrities who are oftentimes getting images taken of them just constantly, and those images are then ran through various processes to spit out whatever they end up coming up with. So the truth in those film images is probably really cool. There's always a thimble of controversy that comes around when we find that a new celebrity has joined the ranks of us film photographers. The first is that we're worried about the process of these cameras. I mean, we all know what happened to the Contax T2 when it was found out that a Jenner was shooting one. I think we worry, we're a little bit protective of our hobby. We don't want the cameras becoming overexposed and the process just going out of control. But at the same time, the other argument is that when folks like this join film photography, it raises the profile of film photography on the whole, and it may bring new people, new lifeblood into the hobby. And without tons of folks buying and shooting film, there is no hobby to begin with. We're not going to be able to continue to get those wonderful products that we know and love. Kodak's not going to waste the money on R&D to try to develop new film stocks, all that kind of thing. New blood in the hobby raises the profile of photography and ensures that we're going to continue to get new products into the future. So that's the other side of the coin. And if you watch this video and you said, man, that Contax T2 is really sexy, check out this video I made about the Contax G1. It's also sexy and a whole lot cheaper. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.